Good afternoon. The Chancellor is promising to spend almost £7 billion improving transport in England's city regions outside London as one of the spending pledges unveiled ahead of this week's budget. Rishi Sunak says the transport revolution will bring public services in those areas in line with the capital. Labour says the government lacks a coherent plan to transform regional economies and tackle the climate crisis. Here's our political correspondent Helen Catt.
Waiting for the train to arrive. It takes longer in the north of England and the Midlands than in London, says the Chancellor, and he sees no reason why that should be the case. So he'll confirm next week that England's city regions will get £5.7 billion for them to spend on improving transport. It'll fund projects like a cycle superhighway in West Bradford and new battery packs for Merseyrail trains in the Liverpool region. Greater Manchester will get just over £1 billion to start its plans to improve connections. Some of it will go on new tram carriages for its Metrolink services.
It's absolutely going in the right direction, but it needs to be consistent year on year. I mean, one lump of cash does not make a London-style transport system. It's going to take a decade.
£3 billion has previously been committed to improve bus services. Rishi Sunak will announce that £1.2 billion of that will be used to make fares simpler and cheaper and buses more frequent in some places.
We think that it's not so much of a north-south divide, but there are many areas across the whole country that feel left behind and need levelling up. So areas that have very infrequent bus services, no services in the evenings and the weekends, and these glaring gaps in current provision that need to be addressed.
And from buses to babies. The Chancellor will also announce a £500 million package to support children and parents. It will include £100 million of mental health support for new mums and dads and those still expecting. There'll be £200 million for the Supporting Families programme, which helps the most vulnerable. And £82 million to fund family hubs, described as one-stop shops for advice and guidance. They're similar in some ways to the Sure Start centres set up under Tony Blair. Hundreds of those have closed since 2010.
Your viewers will make up their own mind. Is this just a revamp of an existing policy? And why did they allow Sure Start centres to wither on the vine? I can only assume it's the same approach to allow early years providers at this particular point in time to go by the wayside.
Labour says the new plan is a sticking plaster which rings hollow. But the government says the hubs will be an upgrade on Sure Start and will help children of all ages and their parents.
And Helen is with me now. So, Helen, the first details coming through of what we can expect in the budget.
Yes, and I don't think it's much of a surprise that those first things that we know are going to be in there seem to fit with that idea of the government's promise of levelling up, this idea of spreading investment or opportunity outside of the South East and London. And I think we'll probably see a few more of these kind of announcements in the run-up to Wednesday. Worth bearing in mind, though, the context in which this is happening. The other promise that Rishi Sunak has made is that he's going to fix the public finances. He said he's not going to borrow any more money. So the detail will come next week of, well, if this money is going on this, what isn't it going on, or where's it coming from? I think the other really interesting thing in today's announcement is that transport money, the way that's being delivered to, that's being given directly to those English city regions to make those improvements. Political gamble for the government there. If it doesn't work, then it's got some distance. But if it does work, who's going to get the credit for that? Is it the government or those city regions?
Thank you, Helen. A prominent advisor to the government on COVID-19 has said he is very fearful that there will be another lockdown at Christmas, as he urged the public to do everything possible to reduce transmission of the virus. Professor Peter Openshaw, a member of the New and Emerging Respiratory Virus Threats Advisory Group, known as NERVTAG, said case numbers and death rates are currently unacceptable.
Do everything possible in your control to try to reduce transmission. Don't wait for the government to change policy. The sooner we all act, the sooner we can get this transmission rate down, and the greater the prospect of having a Christmas with our families.
The actor Alec Baldwin was told a gun was safe just moments before he fatally shot a crew member on the set of his new film. That's according to new documents filed as part of the ongoing police investigation into the killing in New Mexico. Our North America correspondent David Willis reports.
People accidentally shot on a movie set by a prop gun. We need help immediately.
That call to the emergency services, the first public indication of the tragic events that had unfolded in the foothills of northern New Mexico. Police arrived to find Helena Hutchins, an up-and-coming cinematographer, dead, and the film's director, Joel Souza, badly hurt. Their injuries inflicted by the film's star, Alec Baldwin, who, according to court documents, was handed a gun he was told was safe to use, but which was, in fact, loaded with a live round. In a statement, Alec Baldwin said he was cooperating with the police investigation. There are no words to convey my shock and sadness regarding the tragic accident that took the life of Helena Hutchins, a wife, mother and deeply admired colleague of ours, he wrote. This is not the first tragedy of its kind. Nearly 30 years ago, on the set of the film The Crow, Brandon Lee, the son of martial arts expert Bruce Lee, died after being shot by a gun firing blanks. Safety standards have been tightened on film sets since then, but on the family Twitter account, Brandon's sister, Shannon, posted the message, "No one should ever be killed by a gun on a film set, period." Unconfirmed reports suggest that several crew members walked off the set in New Mexico only hours before Helena Hutchins died, in protest at working conditions and concerns about safety. As detectives comb the set for clues, the key question facing them is how did a live round end up in a gun fired by Alec Baldwin? David Willis, BBC News, Los Angeles.
Italy's former Interior Minister Matteo Salvini has gone on trial in Sicily accused of preventing a migrant boat from docking in August 2019. Mr Salvini, the leader of the right-wing League Party, is charged with kidnapping and dereliction of duty. A number of other former government ministers in Italy have been called to give evidence. Ahead of the climate summit COP26, which starts in a week's time in Glasgow, the world's biggest oil exporter, Saudi Arabia, says it's aiming to reach net zero carbon emissions by 2060. Meanwhile, the environmental activist Greta Thunberg has called for honesty from world leaders about where they are failing to stop climate change.
One of the messages that we have is be honest about where you are, how you have been failing, how you are still failing us, and how they spend their time, instead of trying to find solutions, real solutions that would actually lead somewhere, that would lead to a substantial change, fundamental change. They seem to spend their time trying to come up with loopholes, to find excuses for them.
Greta Thunberg. Now let's catch up with all the sport with Gavin Ramjohn at the BBC Sports Centre. Hi, over to you.
Yes, hi there. Very much good to see you, Joanna. We will start with the T20 World Cup. Of course, England are getting their campaign underway in a couple of hours' time against the defending champions, the West Indies, who beat them in the final of the last competition back in 2016. England now are, of course, one-day world champions, and they're hoping to become the first side to actually hold both titles and make history by doing that. Patrick Geary reports.
These are some of the most destructive batsmen in the world, and they're English. England have their pick of batters who are prized by T20 franchises across the globe. So, earning your spot depends on runs, not rank. Even the captain isn't sure of his place in the team.
I'm not going to stand in the way of a team winning the World Cup. I've obviously been short on runs. My captaincy has been pretty good as it goes. It's been a batting lineup that people have struggled to get into for a very long time. Part of that is the whole of the batting unit buying into the way that the team want to play.
After all, T20 is cricket at its most ruthless.
Heartbreak for England, heartbreak for Ben Stokes. West Indies batsman Carlos Brathwaite hit 4 successive sixes, which crushed England in the final over of the World T20 cricket final.
England must confront the ghosts of Kolkata immediately. The team that snatched the last World T20 from them then will now face them again, West Indies. No Stokes now, but are England stronger?
They've come through the last couple of years and built momentum as a team. I think their experience in world tournaments, the last T20 World Cup where they got to the final, winning obviously the 2019 50-over World Cup. I think the bulk of the players that played in those tournaments are still around for this tournament now. So knowing how to deal with pressure, plus the exciting young players that they're bringing through.
The tournament will, in one sense, take place outside England's comfort zone. United Arab Emirates and Oman have never hosted a major tournament before. It will, many think, be a competition dominated by spin. But in T20, what's less clear is which way things will turn. Patrick Geary, BBC News.
Now, it's going to be an historic day at Wembley, with England's women playing a competitive match there for the first time. Northern Ireland are the visitors, and both sides have yet to drop a point in World Cup qualifying so far. Our reporter Jo Corrie is there for us. Jo, good to see you.
Yes, it's hard to believe, isn't it, that the Lionesses have never played a competitive fixture here at the home of English football. In fact, they've only ever played 2 friendly matches at Wembley, the last of which was 2 years ago. So it's going to be a momentous occasion for the England players later tonight. And they will start as heavy favourites against Northern Ireland. Not only are they ranked 40 places above the visitors tonight, but they are also a professional side, whereas Northern Ireland at best are deemed a semi-professional side. But as you say, neither side have dropped any points in their World Cup qualifying campaign so far, with 2 played and 2 win. The team news from the England camp is that Leah Williamson will captain the side again. That's in the absence of usual skipper Steph Houghton. But as you can see, the pitch is looking wonderful. Kick-off here is at 5:15. It should be a momentous occasion.
Should be indeed. Jo Corrie, thank you very much indeed for that there. Jo Corrie for us at Wembley. England's men and women are in rugby league action against France today. The men kick off at 2:30 and that's live on BBC One. The women's game is already underway and it's been all England so far. They lead 22-0 at the moment. Paige Travis with the pick of their 3 tries in the first half. That's live on BBC Two right now. And there's much more going on today, including Chelsea against Norwich in the early Premier League game. Chelsea leading 2-0 already there. You can follow it on the BBC Sport website, Joanna.
Thank you, Gavin. You can see more on all of today's stories on the BBC News channel. The next news on BBC One is at 5:15. Bye-bye for now.